Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Heath Reynolds, and I am one of the presenters for this morning on the topic of perceptions of a sensory-friendly concert program. Just to tell you a little bit about myself and my co-presenter, Kim Van Welden, the two of us have been working together for well over a decade now, and this project happened a little while ago, but we had been hoping to do a second round, and then COVID hit the United States full force. So we have plans in the next 2 years as I take a new position at Belmont University to replicate the study and to continue. But today I really wanted to share with you our findings from our first sensory friendly concert program experience. So the first thing I want to do is talk about what is this sensory friendly, I don't want to say phenomenon, but a movement that's really happening not only here in the United States, but I'm seeing it abroad as well. It's more and more common now between Santa visits, sensory friendly shopping hours in malls and stores, concerts, professional sporting events and arenas, even the airport here where I live right now in Indianapolis, Indiana. There is a sensory room at the Indianapolis airport right now where you can use the facilities if necessary. So what are we doing for the concerts? It's specifically being designed for understanding and adapting for patrons who have sensory sensitivities. So some of the generic things that may be set up are a designated quiet area, a providing earplugs or noise canceling headphones, possibly some fidget toys, ensuring that the hall staff has been trained to be especially inclusive and accommodating, making sure that materials are being sent home. One of the prominent programs that's been putting information out about sensory friendly programs would be the Kennedy Center here in the United States. And we definitely used a lot of their protocols and modeling as we developed this experience here in Indiana. So these are just some of the generic things that we have read about, seen, heard, or experienced ourselves that are happening in concert spaces. So more specifically, during the concert, you're going to see things where perhaps sudden or loud sounds are removed, lighting is low or kept on completely. There will be space for individuals to move around. People are welcome to leave and re-enter as necessary. And of course, the welcoming to talk, clap, express themselves as comfortable is welcomed. And that is probably one of the bigger hurdles for all of us as trained musicians to overcome for some reason. So when we're talking about our future music teachers, what do we know about the preparation and the programs that are out there? Well, one, it's been consistent for decades that music educators generally feel not prepared to work with students who have different abilities. And that has obviously been the same all the way back from the 80s when IDEA and mainstreaming were first really introduced in the United States. It is getting better. We are getting so much better, but there is still room for growth. Right now, we're aware that in the United States, there are many universities who require coursework to prepare pre-service teachers to work with students with different abilities, but a lot of them are not necessarily music specific or don't include any type of fieldwork experience. I have actually guest lectured in many states where there have not been a requirement for a special education specific course at all in the teacher prep program, which is just kind of mind-blowing. Specifically, this project had a fieldwork component, which Kim and I both feel very passionately about. We both have included it in coursework that we have taught here in the United States. And we have discovered through research of Kim's that there is an increased perception of ability to work with students who have different abilities when there is an included fieldwork component in a special education classroom. So doing fieldwork makes a difference. And this is where we keep asking the question, how do we get more hands-on opportunities for pre-service music educators? And perhaps sensory-friendly concert experiences might just be one of those ways if coursework and fieldwork isn't necessarily something that's possible at your university or school. Another component of this project was awareness training. We wanted to ensure that all of the performers and pre-service music educators were exposed with the correct terminology and expectations of the project from someone not myself, their collegiate course teacher, or my cohort and partner in crime, Kim. So we were able to provide an awareness training from someone who has been doing this for other orchestras. And many of the orchestras in the States right now are providing awareness training for their performers and their staff. And this is not unheard of. Like, most people would want to show respect and sensitivity to people with different abilities, but they don't always know how. And with good reason, because many people have different needs and abilities, and there's just so much to take in, and it can be overwhelming for an usher or someone who is not necessarily in the teaching field. So these were some of the topics that were covered in the awareness training. So being proactive, being a good role model, using appropriate language, what type of accommodations will be there, possible behaviors that you might observe, and then coaching for the pre and post concert interactions. So we were extra ambitious and also had a petting zoo that was scheduled to accompany the concert. And so we wanted the students on stage from the university to be able to interact with the students from the schools who were attending the concert. So we were preparing them and coaching them for that experience as well. So the purpose of this study was to examine the perceptions of undergraduate music education majors and undergraduate music performers regarding a sensory-friendly concert program experience. So as you can probably pick up in some of the pictures throughout this slideshow have been of the Indiana State University students and the local students from the school districts from the actual experience. And we did Peter and the Wolf as our concert. So overall, we had 49 participants. 28 of them were music education majors, and 21 of them were performers in the orchestra. We had 3 independent variables: the pre-performance lessons that were taught in the K-12 special education classrooms, the awareness training experience, and then the actual concert experience that took place. So what were the pre-performance lessons? Again, I mentioned that we chose Peter and the Wolf as the repertoire to be performed. I believe that programmatic music for this first attempt was one of the best ways to positively interact with students and give us a platform to share different information and to get them engaged as quickly as possible. So with those lessons, Kim and I created a website that the teachers could access, that the music education students could have access to. We created multiple levels of materials for different levels of cognitive need. So every teacher was provided the materials that not only were presented in the classroom, but also additional materials if they needed it. All lessons were completely scripted by Kim and myself so that each student who went out had the same script, and each student in the classroom was receiving the exact same information. So there were two levels of the lesson. So there was the Peter and the Wolf, and then there was the community-based instruction portion where we were teaching students how to buy concert tickets. And so it was a twofold experience. So especially for some of the kids that were at the high school level, this was really cool to them because they were able to get online and purchase tickets on their own to attend the concert. So the awareness training factor that we provided was with a board-certified music therapist who was also a music educator. She had provided this type of training before for the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra. She's actually attended ISME conferences before. Laura Meehan, she is one of my favorite partners in crime when it comes to working with students who have different abilities. And she was able to come and provide the awareness training for both the music education students and the performers in the orchestra. So the concert experience itself, we ended up providing 3 different concerts, and we had over 300 students and adults with disabilities from the community attend. So these were kids in the elementary, middle school, and high schools in our local counties, as well as some of the adults from the day facilities in our town. We adhered to the sensory-friendly guidelines that were provided by the Kennedy Center. So we kept lights on, we projected visuals, we had a quiet room, we were able to provide fidgets and sensory toys. There was a yoga ball. There was a lot available, and surprisingly, not many people actually ended up needing it for the experience. We also had a petting zoo set up around the room, which is what you can see most of the pictures, like the picture you're looking at right now is my student Raina and the special education teacher Amanda with one of my favorite humans on the planet, Devin, who is looking at a violin. So the petting zoo was completely aligned with all of the characters from Peter and the Wolf. One of the other things that we made sure was that we had the exact same visuals presented during the concert that were available in all of the materials and on the website. So we were very consistent with all of that throughout this entire experience. So our dependent measures were 2 pre-post mixed methods surveys. So we had 1 survey for the music education students and 1 survey for the music performance students, and they were broken up into 5 subsections, and each question used a 5-point Likert type scale that went from not at all to very much. The first subsection was us really asking students about their perception of concert etiquette and venue setup. So this was very much, how do you feel about patrons who clap between movements? How do you feel about patrons who talk? Do you feel it's appropriate for people to talk during concerts? Do you feel that it's okay for people to stand up and leave and return during concerts? So some of these very embedded practices that we have adopted in the States and all over the world with this dark, quiet, formal, high class, high-end performing, no clapping, being very judgmental as performers and attendees when other people do things. This is a stigma and an expectation that this project was really trying to break down, and it was difficult at times. But that was this subsection, was really looking at how the room was set up and before, again, pre and post. So before the experience, what their expectations were and their feelings were. And then again, we would ask them after. So the second subsection was perceived comfort levels. So how do you feel interacting with people who have different abilities? So, and this kind of broke it down into the specifics. So How do you feel interacting with people who have cognitive differences or physical differences? And so for some of the kids, they have no reference, and some had the fieldwork experience, so they might have perceived a little higher comfort rating, but that was the subsection 2 was perceived comfort levels. Subsection 3 is perceptions of confidence. So how confident do you feel using the language? How confident are you with knowledge of adaptations and modifications? And how confident are you using the appropriate language? Subsection 4 was perceptions of the concert program in general. So how do you feel like this program will it be successful? Is there something you would like? Would you be willing to do this in the future? Was the audience receptive? Do you think they'll be receptive? And then the final subsection is perceptions of preparation. So, how did the music ed students feel about the lesson planning and the field work? And then for the music performance students or the orchestra students, what was it like preparing the repertoire and going through the rehearsals? So the results. So subsection 1, concert etiquette, you're going to see that there was a significant difference between pre and post, which is exactly what we would hope for, right? That beforehand, we are very close-minded to what we expect concert experiences to be like. And afterwards, we're a little bit more open-minded. You will see that... we ran a dependent t-test to find out all of this information. And so, like an effect size of 0.2 is considered small, and 0.8 is considered large. So a little bit of a smaller difference in the music performance groups versus music ed. But the big thing I would notice is that it's still kind of a lower mean. So we're still kind of like, people need to sit down and clap and the right places. So we're still not fully changed with that. For comfort, look how high these means are to begin with. So we feel pretty comfortable working with people who are different, have different needs and different abilities from the get-go. But you do see that it does increase for both of them. Not significantly, but it does increase. So for confidence, once again, significant differences from pre to post. So we are much more confident working with our language and our... our person first language and adaptations and modifications. So obviously this experience helped change them and change their perceptions in a positive way. The program in general, I think everyone was very excited from the get-go to be part of something bigger at the university. So it was really exciting to see such high means to begin with. But again, some significant differences from before the experience to after. So it's very positive that students want to continue doing this type of work in the future, whether they're educators or performers. Preparing, again, very high means. They enjoyed it, and it's something that they look forward to doing again in their future. So very positive changes. We also had, again, mixed methods. So there were some responses that were given and some reflections. And so I'm just going to go through a few of them. My biggest fear is not being able to effectively find solutions for students, or that I will unintentionally do something with good in mind that turns out to be offensive. I think that's every single one of us. That's what it is to be an empathetic human. So this was something that was felt beforehand. And then after, a lot of the feelings were very much on the same page as this one. Overall, it made me feel more confident with my interaction skills and comfort approaching and teaching students in the special education classrooms. Yay, because that's really what this was all about. Another one, the one thing I loved so much was how incredibly open and accepting the environment was. It didn't matter that students were making noise and reacting to the story. It didn't matter that babies and others were walking around. Everyone there was accepted for who they were, and no one made a fuss about this non-traditional concert. It was beautiful. And then one of my favorite things was the surprise of the reactions of the teachers of the students. So the teachers became kids again, and they were so happy because of how happy their students were. And if this means that one more music ed student goes out there and feels confident to provide music for students with different needs, then I have done my job and Kim has done her job. And that was probably the most rewarding part of this project and why we want to continue doing more of these projects. So, do we do it again? Yeah, we had it all planned out for spring 2020. Completely, we had done the awareness training, we had done the pre-tests, we had started classroom visits, and then COVID hit. And we have not been able to secure places in the classrooms yet. And now I am changing universities, so the hope is going to be to continue this process and this project in Nashville, Tennessee in the near future. And we really look forward to hopefully presenting at the next ISME a follow-up with more sensory-friendly concert experiences. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and I think we're about to take some questions from you guys.